Welcome in, Cowboys Nation. Appreciate everyone tuning in today. We've got a packed episode, and I mean packed because Dallas Cowboys news and rumors continue to swirl around one very specific topic, the defensive coordinator search. And I know a lot of you are anxious. I know some of you are frustrated. I know some of you are already convinced the Cowboys are going to mess this up. But today we're going to slow everything down, add context, add perspective, and really break this thing apart the right way. Because while Cowboys fans are hitting refresh on Twitter, while timelines are screaming, "Why hasn't Jerry hired someone yet?" There's a big disconnect between fan urgency and how real coaching searches actually work in the NFL. And that's the theme of this first segment. Patience, whether fans like it or not. Right now, the Cowboys remain firmly in the mix for one of their primary defensive coordinator targets. That hasn't changed. Despite rumors flying all over the place, despite names coming and going, Dallas is still in a strong position. And this idea that the Cowboys are falling behind or missing out simply doesn't line up with how the league itself is operating at this moment. Let's start with the basic facts. As we sit here today, more than 15 NFL teams either need a new defensive coordinator or have undergone major changes on the defensive staff. That is a massive number. And yet, only one team, the Atlanta Falcons, has actually hired a defensive coordinator so far. One. That's it. On top of that, only 5 teams total have even started formal defensive coordinator searches. So if you're sitting there asking, why haven't the Cowboys hired someone yet? The counter question is, why would they rush when almost nobody else has? This isn't Madden. This isn't a free agency auction where whoever clicks first wins. These are human beings with leverage, career goals, families, and multiple interviews happening simultaneously. You can't magically force a defensive coordinator to take your job just because you offer it first. In many cases, offering it too early can actually work against you. And that's where a lot of Cowboys fans lose the plot. Dallas is conducting what you would call a real coaching search. That means in-person interviews. That means internal evaluations. That means patience. And yes, that means waiting while other dominoes across the league fall. Now, let's talk about where the Cowboys actually stand. According to multiple reports and league insiders, the Cowboys have 4 finalists for the defensive coordinator role. Durant Jones, currently the Vikings pass game coordinator. Jonathan Gannon, former Arizona Cardinals head coach. Christian Parker, Eagles pass game coordinator. And Jim Leonard, Broncos pass game coordinator. Those are not random names. That's not scraping the bottom of the barrel. That's a mix of young schematic minds, former head coaching experience, and modern NFL defensive backgrounds. Whether you personally love or hate each name, the reality is this. Dallas is interviewing legitimate candidates. And importantly, they've already conducted in-person interviews with at least 3 of them. That matters. Let's pause right there because in-person interview gets glossed over by fans way too easily. In-person interviews mean real interest. It means time investment. It means the Cowboys aren't just kicking tires. They're evaluating fit, philosophy, leadership style, and alignment with Mike McCarthy and the rest of the staff. This isn't Jerry Jones throwing darts at a board. Now, one name that keeps popping up and then disappearing is Brian Flores. For a while, Flores felt like a potential top option. But the latest Cowboys rumors suggest that he might be off the table at this point. Whether that's mutual interest fading, Flores prioritizing other opportunities, or Dallas simply going in a different direction, we don't know for sure. And here's the key thing. That's okay. Not landing one specific candidate does not mean the Cowboys have failed. Coaching searches are about options, not obsession. If your entire plan collapses because you didn't land one coach, then your plan wasn't very good to begin with. Dallas clearly has a board. They clearly have tiers. And they clearly are comfortable enough with their remaining candidates to continue this process instead of panicking. And that brings us back to the fan anxiety. Cowboys fans have some understandable concern. I want to be clear about that. It's not irrational. This defense has been inconsistent. There are questions about scheme flexibility, red zone performance, and adjustments against elite offenses. Fans want answers. Fans want stability. Fans want improvement now. But urgency does not equal effectiveness. When fans say, we're losing targets to other teams, The reality is, almost no one has hired anyone yet. There are bigger dominoes still waiting to fall. Head coaching staffs are still being finalized. Assistants are still under contract. Some coordinators are waiting to see if other opportunities open up. And if you rush now, you risk settling. You risk hiring the wrong fit simply because you wanted to win the news cycle. Dallas doesn't need to win February headlines. Dallas needs to win in January. That's the bigger picture here. The Cowboys are not behind. They are not asleep at the wheel. They are not ignoring the problem. They are simply operating on the same timeline as the rest of the NFL, whether fans like it or not. And as we move deeper into this episode, we're going to break down each finalist individually, explain what they bring to the table, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and why Dallas might lean one way or another. But before we do that, it's important to reset expectations. This hire is not about splash. It's not about name recognition. It's not about Twitter approval. It's about finding a defensive coordinator who can maximize the talent already on this roster, adapt weekly, and complement the offensive philosophy under Mike McCarthy. That's the standard. Today's Dallas Cowboys rumors really highlight where this franchise is right now, and honestly, it's a crossroads that Cowboys fans know all too well. We're talking about a team with talent, a team with star power, but also a team that keeps circling the same issues year after year, and that starts at the very top. One of the biggest mailbag questions I keep getting is whether the Cowboys need a new owner and a new general manager. Now, obviously, Jerry Jones isn't selling the team, and Stephen Jones isn't going anywhere. But when fans ask that question, what they're really saying is that they want accountability, modern thinking, and a front office that's willing to be aggressive when the window is open. The Cowboys have operated like a conservative business instead of a ruthless football organization, and that mindset has shown up in free agency, in trade deadlines, and even in how they value their own players. That brings us right into one of the wildest but most interesting trade ideas floating around for the 2026 NFL Draft, which is the idea of trading both Cowboys' first-round picks to the Bengals in exchange for their first-round pick and a second-rounder. Now, on the surface, that feels like a lot to give up, but context matters. If the Cowboys believe they'll be picking in the late teens or 20s both years, packaging those picks to move up for a true franchise-altering player could actually make sense. The key question is whether Dallas would have the courage to do it, because historically, this front office values volume over boldness. The Bengals, on the other hand, might be looking to reload cheaply around Joe Burrow if their cap situation tightens. This is the kind of forward-thinking move contending teams make, but the Cowboys rarely play chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Another trade rumor that has Cowboys fans buzzing is the idea of Max Crosby for George Pickens. This is the type of deal that splits the fan base right down the middle. On one hand, Pickens gives you a young, explosive wide receiver with WR1 traits. But on the other hand, Max Crosby is a defensive culture changer. He's a relentless edge rusher, a tone setter, and the exact type of player Dan Quinn used to build around. If the Cowboys truly want to fix their defense, Crosby makes more sense than almost any receiver, especially when you consider how inconsistent Dallas has been at generating pressure when Micah Parsons is neutralized. The problem is that the Cowboys have traditionally valued offensive skill players over defensive dominance, and that philosophy has cost them in January. Free agency is another area where fans are desperate to see real spending, not bargain bin shopping. Every year we hear about selective aggression, and every year the Cowboys sit on cap space while elite players change teams. This offseason should be different, especially with the defense needing reinforcements at safety, linebacker, and defensive end. Jaquan Brisker from the Bears is a name that makes a lot of sense. He's physical, instinctive, and plays with an edge that the Cowboys' secondary has lacked. Pairing him with a ball-hawking safety would give Dallas a much more versatile back end. Quay Walker from Green Bay is another intriguing target. He's fast, rangy, and can stay on the field in all three downs, something the Cowboys have struggled to find at linebacker for years. Then there's the pass rush conversation, which brings up names like Joey Bosa and A.J. Epineza. Joey Bosa is the bigger name, and when healthy, he's still a difference maker, but availability is the concern. If the Cowboys go that route, it has to be on a smart, incentive-heavy deal. A.J. Epineza, meanwhile, is a quieter signing that could pay off. He's younger, durable, and still ascending. Dallas has missed on too many aging veterans. Epineza would represent a shift towards sustainable roster building. Draft-wise, Cowboys fans should keep an eye on players like C.J. Allen and Caleb Downs. C.J. Allen fits exactly what this defense needs at linebacker: physical, disciplined, and reliable. He's not flashy, but championship defenses are built on players like him. Caleb Downs is the kind of safety prospect that doesn't come around often. He has elite instincts, range, and football IQ, and he could immediately transform the Cowboys' secondary. If Dallas has a chance to land a player like Downs, that's when trading up becomes a real conversation. There's also the internal decisions that can't be ignored. Eric Kendricks re-signing would make sense if the price is right. He brought leadership and stability to the linebacker room, but Dallas can't overpay for past production. Terrence Steele is another tough call. Bringing him back on a pay cut feels reasonable, but only if the Cowboys have a real backup plan. The offensive line has quietly become one of the most fragile parts of this roster, and that's not something you can ignore if you want to protect your quarterback in January. Finally, the defensive coordinator search is critical. This hire will tell us everything about where the Cowboys think they are as a team. Do they want another aggressive, attacking defense? Or are they going to lean conservative and hope talent carries them? The wrong hire keeps this team stuck in neutral. The right hire, paired with real investment in free agency and a bold approach to the draft, could finally push Dallas over the hump. When you step back and look at all these rumors, trades, and targets, the theme is clear. Cowboys fans aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for intention. They want a front office that acts like a contender, not a brand. Until that changes, the rumors will keep coming, the debates will keep raging, and the Cowboys will remain the most talked about team in the NFL without the results to match. And perhaps most importantly, a sense that the franchise is finally positioned to attack the future instead of merely surviving it. At his end-of-season press conference, Jerry Jones spoke with optimism about the team's ability to add quality players through both the draft and free agency, and he traced that confidence back to a decision made at the very beginning of the 2025 season, a decision that has quietly reshaped the Cowboys' financial and competitive outlook. Jones described the vision behind the Micah Parsons trade and hinted that the true benefits of that move are still ahead, not behind, suggesting that what the Cowboys were really trying to achieve is only now coming into focus. Away from the microphones and cameras, Jones went even further, floating the idea of busting the budget in pursuit of his long-stated personal goal: becoming the NFL owner with the most Super Bowl championships. He currently sits 3 titles behind New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, and at this stage of his career, that gap clearly weighs on him. When Jerry Jones talks this way, it forces the league, and especially Cowboys fans, to ask a dangerous but exciting question. Could Dallas actually become aggressive in free agency? Right now, the Cowboys' salary cap situation looks less like a clean spreadsheet and more like a Monet painting, slightly blurry and dependent on where you stand. What is clear is that Dallas must clear cap space to comply with the 2026 limit, but the exact number won't be finalized until early March when the league officially sets the cap. As things stand, the Cowboys have roughly $330 million in contracts on the books, while league projections place the cap somewhere between $295 and $305 million. Even under conservative estimates, that means Dallas must find at least $30 million just to get under the cap before making a single addition. And that number could grow quickly if the team applies the franchise tag to wide receiver George Pickens, a move that would immediately add close to $28 million to the cap. At first glance, this might sound like a financial nightmare, but the reality is far more manageable because the Cowboys have built their roster with restructures in mind. Dallas can generate upward of $100 million in cap space by restructuring contract for Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, Osa Odigizwa, Darren Bland, and Jake Ferguson, simply by reducing base salaries to the league minimum and converting the rest into bonuses. However, not every restructure is created equal, and there are legitimate long-term consequences to consider. Fully restructuring Dak Prescott's deal, for example, would push nearly $8 million per year into future cap figures from 2027 through 2031, ballooning his cap hit to over $75 million in 2027 and more than $85 million in 2028. While that move would provide immediate relief, it would also mortgage the future, and the Cowboys must decide whether short-term flexibility is worth long-term strain. A partial restructure may be the wiser path, preserving flexibility without completely overloading future seasons. The situation with Darren Bland is even more delicate. Coming off his second foot surgery in as many years, Bland presents both upside and risk. His fully guaranteed money expires after this season, which gives the Cowboys a relatively clean exit option in 2027 if things go south. Restructuring his deal now would increase future cap commitments at a time when his durability is uncertain. For that reason, the smartest approach may be to keep Bland's contract untouched unless circumstances force the team's hand later in free agency, during the summer, or near the trade deadline. The good news is that other restructures carry far less risk. By reworking the contracts of CeeDee Lamb and Tyler Smith alone, Dallas can free up roughly $36 million in cap space, money that can immediately be put to use. If the Cowboys want to push even further, they can look toward extensions for defensive tackles Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, both of whom are under contract through 2027. Clark, in particular, is due an $11 million roster bonus by March 13th, creating urgency that could be leveraged into a cap-friendly extension. These types of moves highlight just how much flexibility the Cowboys actually have if they choose to use it. Among their 15 unrestricted free agents, 3 stand above the rest in importance: George Pickens, running back Javonte Williams, and defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. All 3 have expressed a desire to return, but each represents a very different challenge. Pickens is the most complicated. After arriving via trade from Pittsburgh, he delivered career highs across the board with 93 receptions, 1,412 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He is now positioned to demand top-of-the-market receiver money, potentially exceeding the $34 million per year deal CeeDee Lamb signed 2 years ago. That reality is why many around the league believe Dallas will apply the franchise tag, buying time, but also introducing the possibility of off-season tension. The Cowboys dealt with a training camp hold-in from Micah Parsons last year, and Pickens shares the same agency, athletes first, raising the possibility of a similar standoff. Clowney's market value has also risen. He led the Cowboys with 8.5 sacks and finished the season strong despite entering his 13th NFL year. He has emphasized his desire to participate fully in the off-season program and training camp, something he believes will allow him to be more physically prepared than he was when he joined the team late last season. His on-field production is critical for a pass rush that struggled in 2025, and his off-field leadership has earned praise from head coach Brian Schottenheimer, particularly for his mentorship of younger players like Donovan Ezra. Javonte Williams presents a different kind of dilemma. He rushed for 1,201 yards, the most by a Cowboys running back since Ezekiel Elliott in 2019, but he did so on a $3 million salary. On the open market, that number is likely to double on a multi-year deal. Dallas can argue that production at running back can be found anywhere, pointing to Williams himself and Rico Dowdle, an undrafted free agent who also topped 1,000 yards. Whether the Cowboys are willing to pay Williams' market value will say a lot about how they view positional spending. Beyond unrestricted free agency, Dallas must also navigate restricted free agents, most notably All-Pro kicker Brandon Aubrey. Because he was undrafted, Aubrey is a candidate for the second-round tender, projected at just over $6 million. The Cowboys discussed a multi-year extension with his agent last summer, but failed to reach an agreement. Those talks could resume, potentially making Aubrey the